Hi, this is Demetra Clark, the director of Heart of Herbs Herbal School, and today I'm answering some student questions about setting up an online apothecary business. Now, if you go to heartofherbs.com, we have a lot of this information in our classes, and this is just putting it together in a way that it's a little easier for some of the students to reference all in one place. We do have sections about this in our course, and we will have some new classes that are going to involve a lot more of this information to help our students grow and succeed. So have fun listening. Good morning. Someone messaged me through the 800 number asking some questions about setting up an apothecary business and a business, and we do have a training for that, and we'll also be introducing a new training this fall that goes into that in a different way, and so we'll have that available. But I just thought I could take a few minutes and go over this and answer these questions. So what are some steps involved in setting up an online apothecary business? Now, if you're in the clinical herbalist program and the certified herbalist program, we already have a lot of this information in your classroom, so it may be something that you've already heard before. But this is going to have it in a more condensed in one area instead of spread throughout the lessons. So your first thing that you're going to need to do is to define your niche and offerings. So identify your business focus. Is it teas, tinctures, salves, a combination of skincare supplements, a full product line? You're also going to want to determine if you're going to use Western herbalism, Ayurveda, traditional Chinese medicine, Tibetan medicine, or a mix, or if you're going to use nutrition and herbs. So you really need to think about what it is that you're going to be offering. And then you're going to want to choose your target audience. So women's health, stress, support, skincare, immune health. It can change and it can grow and it can be different than what you think it is when you first start. But when you first start, keep it simple and give yourself something to grow off of. If you start with 200-300 products, you're going to be overwhelmed. It's going to be a lot of work. And you're not going to be able to define your audience as easily. So don't feel like you have to serve everyone and make everyone happy. Then you're going to want to develop a business plan. So even if you're not going to the bank and borrowing money, you want to have some kind of written out business plan. And look, why do I say this? Because everyone's like, no, I'll just know what I'm doing. No, write it out. Give yourself a mission and a vision statement. What is it that you're trying to do? What is your mission? What is your vision? Not only does that give you the opportunity to really define this within yourself, it also allows you to put it on paper. And putting stuff on paper, write it out by hand. Do it by hand, people. Do not type this stuff in. Don't go to ChatGPT and ask them to do it for you. That will not sit in your brain right. Trust me, okay? Then you're going to want to look at market analysis. So that you can use tools for. Product list and pricing strategy. Go and research how much products cost. What is your pricing strategy? Do the math, and we're going to have this in all of this upcoming stuff that we're going to have available, but we also talk about this in your classrooms already. Then you're going to want to have a marketing and sales plan. And stop thinking that the only place that you're going to have to market your business is social media. That works for like 1% of the people out there. There are millions and millions and millions of businesses online. Maybe 1%, probably less than 1%, actually only use one or two platforms on social media to make all their money. And the other, part of that 1% are probably lying. I mean, business is epic work, epic determination. So look, if you're looking for an easy way to get from A to B, this is a business. This is a long haul investment. It's like any relationship that you're going to have. It's going to take a while. Then you're going to want to look at some financial projections, and a startup budget. So how much money do you have? Are you going to be borrowing against your home, and what kind of risk does that involve? Or are you going to be taking a loan out from a bank? What are you going to be using as collateral? Are you going to save up your money? Are you going to do like what we did? We just one thing paid for the next thing for years. It was like paid for, the business, the development, the growth, the products, the whatever, and it was a slow stepping process. And then you're going to want to know what your legal structure is. So you can look that up online. You can make decisions about that. LLC, sole proprietorship, etc. You can ask, online, like what are the different kinds of business structures. Talk to an accountant. Spend the money, talk to an accountant or talk to a lawyer about where you should be going with this. Don't cheap out on your development because you're like, oh, a lawyer is $100 or an accountant is $100 for this consultation, right? Guess what? It's going to cost you thousands if you need to change stuff over or you're not set up the right way. So just let someone help you. Just let someone help you. All right, legal setup and compliance. So register your business, obtain an EIN. We have that information in there. Check with local and state laws regarding herbal product sales. So people will ask me like, oh, what's a good thing for this state or that state? Look, I don't know every single state because there's like the FDA guidelines, right? Generally regarded as safe guidelines. And then we have each state, and then we have manufacturing stuff that's each county. So, and then you could even could go down like some, cities have their own regulations where the county is different. If you live out in the county, you can do this. If you live in the city, you got to do that. So the reality is that's something that's really on you. Contacting people at like your chamber of commerce, your actual city where you register a business, they can help you with all that. That's what they're there for. Now, you're going to have to understand FDA regulations, and so we go into this pretty in-depth in the courses, but also, don't make unverified health claims. Don't say great for balding or, cures insomnia. Just don't. And when people say, oh, they shut down this herbal business and they're persecuting them, blah, 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 if you go back, I guarantee you go back and you look through the FDA because you can see everyone who's been gotten in trouble, right? If you go back and you look at, just choose a random herbal business, okay, they've been cited, this is why, right? Well, the ones who get in trouble are cited multiple times and they refuse to comply. So even large businesses have had issues with just the way something was said, and they were like, we changed it, we're all good. It's really just a matter of language. So even if you look up some of the larger herbal companies, they're not being persecuted. They fell outside of the regulations. The FDA told them, this is how you get your butt back into compliance. You can choose to do it or not. Okay? That's on you. So if you feel like you're being persecuted, right, or someone's being persecuted, go and get the receipts. Let's see what's going on. Because more than likely than not, you put cures cancer on a salve, you're going to get in trouble. Because first of all, in our country, in the United States, so if you're in another country, it may be different. In the United States, you can't say something cures something unless it goes through the FDA process, right? Then you're also going to have to, follow the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act if selling ingestibles. So that's something that you can look into. And then you're going to want to have some kind of liability insurance. So someone recently asked, do I need insurance? Yes. Look, get insurance. Just do it. It's not that expensive. You just protect yourself and your family. You write it off in your taxes anyways. It says business. It's a legitimate business expense. So, just really seriously look into that. And we have a link in the classroom, but there's also other insurance companies. You can talk to your agent about an umbrella policy, blah, blah, blah. I actually posted a link in the student group choose something that specifically answers the question of, do I need insurance? Okay. Branding and packaging. So choose a business name and logo that reflects your herbal philosophy. Develop a consistent brand identity, fonts, colors, tone. We talk about this in the classroom. Invest in professional compliant labels. There's services that'll do this for you, or there's a template at the FDA. I mean, you can definitely do this, include ingredients, batch number, usage instructions, net weight, and disclaimers. And then you can opt for sustainable or eco-conscious packaging if possible. But the reality is that for branding and packaging, it's not a bad idea to work with someone who can help you. Now, pro tip here. Everybody has a friend who says they can make a logo or a website for them. The majority of people that have that in their life, the website doesn't get finished, or the logo, takes, 8 months to get back. It's just like, the shitting where you eat. Sometimes you just want to hire a professional to do a job. Now, you can do a lot of this stuff yourself. There's tools out there. There's Canva. There's WordPress. There's, different templates. There's all different kinds of things. I'm sitting on a couch at my family member's farm. I've been working out here. And so if you hear me squeaking, I apologize. I'm like bouncing around while I'm talking. So sorry if you hear me bebopping around. So you definitely want to really think hard about that, and how do I want to do this? So then you're going to want to source high quality herbs and ingredients. So look, how you do all of that's up to you. I know that I always try to look for organic, wildcraft, or locally grown herbs. I try to stick with locally grown as in my yard. I am not currently running an apothecary business. So look for the best quality that you can have and to share with your clients. Now, don't greenwash your shit, okay? I can't tell you how many freaking times over the years, you'll look at something and you're at a farmer's market or whatever, and you're going to buy something, and they're telling you that it's like wild-crafted whatever, and you're like, oh, where did you harvest it from? I didn't know that, because you're thinking in your head, that doesn't frickin' grow here. And they're lying to you. So don't do that. Have a really high ethical place from the beginning. And I know sometimes when people get scared about making money, that sometimes, it can be hard. I get that. Just don't do it. Make a decision from the beginning not to do that. And the reason why this has been something that I've always kind of been aware of is that I knew someone who ran an herbal company, and they kind of did that kind of stuff, and they were not a friend of mine, and it was something where I just felt, it made me feel so uncomfortable because I knew that they were lying. And I'm not a good gossip, so it wasn't like I was running around telling everybody what they were up to, and like that, maybe that's on me. But like I definitely severed ties and stopped buying anything from them because I was like, this is crazy. You can also ask for certificates of analysis from the herbal and essential oil companies to ensure purity and potency. And then, look, use good manufacturing practices. That's a whole other thing in itself, and we have information in our classroom. You're going to want to keep detailed batch records. This new program that we're going to be putting out, some of you will have access to based on your current enrollments, and you'll be brought into that. But overall, this is going to have a lot of like the templates, shelf stability, mold microbial growth information, stuff like that to really help you define your business better as far as safety and stuff. I've really been disgusted by a lot of the stuff I'm seeing on social media when people are talking about like, this is where I make my herbal products. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so freaking dirty. I wouldn't want you cooking food for me. But it's like this whole and I'm not talking about people are doing stuff outside. Like I do stuff, when I'm making stuff for my family, it's in my family. All the germs that are in my house are my family germs, right? But if I'm making stuff for sale, I want a very clean setup. So it's very, very hard when people are like, yeah, this is where I make this. And I'm looking and I'm like, you've got junk on the counter, or that's not a cleanable surface. Because this is a whole other level. You know what I mean? So if you want to have you don't have a lot of room in your house and you want to have like a clean area, you can go to like restaurant supply stores and get like stainless steel carts and stuff that you can work on where the wheels lock in place. You can move them around. Super easy to sterilize and clean. So you definitely want to make sure that everything is really clean and really, really well labeled and batched well. And I think I shared my, labeling hack for my home apothecary, which is I use quart and half-gallon size canning jars inside of I think it's like a 7-foot by 5-foot cupboard, and everything's dark, but everything's well labeled, and I'll even use smaller jars just to make sure there's no. So I don't even put like batches of things together. If they're, if I get, a pound of herbs and I get, 6 months later another pound of it, but the other one isn't all the way done, I don't mix those. I keep everything separate. I have plenty of space to do that though. I actually took over a boot room in our home and turned it into my herbal storage area inside of these cupboards. So I'm very fortunate. I understand that, I can do that. So, but what I'm saying is I like to keep things really, really well defined, just for my own brain. At this point, everything that I'm doing personally is just based on my years and years of doing the manufacturing stuff and consulting on manufacturing and helping people set up their businesses. But it's also like it just keeps my brain straight. And at this point in my life, I don't want things that mess my brain up. So, and then you're going to want to set up your online store. So you can choose a platform like Shopify, WooCommerce, Etsy, or Wix. You're going to want to make sure your site is as mobile friendly as possible and it has a secure SSL certificate. You want it to be easy to navigate with clear product descriptions, high quality images. Keep it simple. Integrate payment processors and shipping options. Include a privacy policy, terms of service, return policy and disclaimers. Inventory and order fulfillment. You want in-house fulfillment where you store and ship your products. Third-party fulfillment, useful if you're scaling up. Use inventory software or spreadsheets to track stock levels, expiration dates, and restocking needs. Okay? So that's really, really important that you keep track of everything. Look, if you don't properly batch label stuff, if you don't properly, do those kind of things, if you have a problem with contamination, guess what you're doing? You're destroying everything because you don't have good records. Or you're putting your customers at risk because you don't have good records. So either way, that's not something you want to do. So years ago, and there was a company that was selling, I know it was skullcap. I don't remember what it was contaminated with, but it was the herb skullcap, and they had to do like a huge recall because there was something in it that was very poisonous, and it wasn't well documented. And so that's a problem. And if you ever had to do a recall or anything like that, it would be really nice if you only had to recall 100 customer stuff versus everyone who's ever purchased this product from you. So that's definitely something to look at. And then marketing and sales. You're going to want to build a social media presence. Social media isn't everything. Email lists aren't everything. Websites aren't everything. Having free educational content is not everything. So you really want to have a nice combination of everything. I know that you're going to be out there going, oh my gosh, like all of these places are so much better than me and so much wonderful. Hey, I get that too. Like I look at like other places that offer student education and I'm like, okay, I know there's differences between me and them. Like they are way flashier than I am. That's okay. I know that they don't have a dedicated presence that's always working with their students. There's people who come in and out or volunteers. I know that when someone does work for me, I'm paying them a fair amount. I know, so I know the things that are important to me. I know when a student has a question that they can call me, that they can email me, they can text me, they can contact me through the student group. Like, so I know what makes me different, and I have to say, I'm spending my time with students, not necessarily making content for whatever. Will the content make me more money? Sure, right? But the promise that I made in my business and with my students is that I am working with you, not, doing all this other stuff. I mean, and I do that other stuff too, don't get me wrong. And I'm not saying that if you do all that stuff, like that's not a good thing to do. I'm saying because my business is defined and how I want to work is defined, and the relationship that I want with my students and the promise that I made with myself about how I wanted to run Heart of Herbs means that that's the part that comes first. Doesn't always, it's not always sexy, but I do know that if someone calls me on a Saturday afternoon or texts me and says, I really, really need help, that I'm going to try to help them. And I've helped students literally from 30-something countries and in a variety, from being in a casino with my little sister, texting someone from a table, and I don't do casinos, but we just happened to be there for something, to, a Starbucks in Egypt. And if you know me, you know I don't like Starbucks coffee, so I was there to take a student phone call to, near the Cliffs of Moher in Ireland and, in England and France and Italy and Germany and, Belize, taking students, emails and calls everywhere in the world, because that's my promise, right? So, and I don't talk about the things that I do for students like online and stuff, because I feel like that's part of our private relationship. So when I talk about defining your business, right, those are the things that you think about, like what are my relationships and how is this going to affect my marketing and sales? How is this going to affect my bottom line? And making conscious decisions about that, because we have the Instagram, the Facebook, and all that kind of stuff, right? But, I really feel like my real connection is when I'm talking to students on the phone or doing something like this or being in the student group with you and being there all the time with you, right? Not just one day a week or whatever. I don't have moderators handling stuff because I want to be able to answer your questions. And so like that, I guess I'm going kind of deep diving a little bit more personally on this than I probably need to. But what I'm trying to say is, so by defining that early and defining how you want to interact with your customers and your clients and your work, right, it really does help. And I mean, I've been doing this now for almost 30 years. And so, I really feel like having that base is really helpful for business, and it's also helpful for your marketing and sales. So you can start an email list for newsletters, launches, and promotions, offering educational content. So blogs, free PDFs, herb spotlights, those are all great. I don't think that you should have to give everything away. So there was this thing going on for a while, like, give them everything for free and feed them in, and everything like free became like a sales thing. Like I even saw something recently where it's like, you want the link for this podcast? Comment this in the bottom. And I'm like, just give them the link. Like I'm like, no, I'm going to go find that. I'm not giving you my information to access something that's already public. Like, so not everything has to be like, I don't want to take from. That's just the way I am. I feel like some of that stuff has just been so overdone that I'm thinking that people are starting to just be like, ugh. So encourage customer reviews and testimonials. And you know what? Be one of those persons that, says nice thing about other businesses. So I rarely, ever say anything negative about a local business, because I want local businesses around me to thrive, right? Unless there's like a serious problem. And then I still try to make sure I'm super, super polite. Like, I want my community to thrive. I want to be one of those voices that highlights the positive. Everybody can have a crappy experience with the business, but having a really, really nice experience and sharing about that, or, something special that a local business did and went out of the way, to share with you or to do for you, it's nice to talk about that and highlight that kind of stuff. And encourage your customers to leave reviews and testimonials, and, and just ask. I know I don't ask a lot. Like, I have something at the end of the classroom now, and I actually don't share a lot of them, because I feel like they're so sweet and so personal that it just, it's nice to know what I can do better, and I appreciate that. So you can also look at considering affiliate marketing, collaborations, or subscription boxes. And then, look, you are going to want to keep going with your education. So I take some kinds of classes every single year. I'm not kidding. Like, it's either like an herbal class or a nutrition class or a health class or even interest class, like how to drive. This fall I'm gonna learn how to drive a skid steer and some tractor stuff, because I want to learn how to do that. And I do know with a farm, like having just a little bit more information on how to run some of these things, that would be great for me. My husband is not always the best teacher for me to learn from when it comes to heavy equipment, but actually no one else in my family will know how to do this. Some of this stuff, my tractors and all that. But I'm like, okay, learning new stuff. It also helps me to connect with clients and students better, because I do understand more of the world that they live in and more of the things that they have done and that they're doing for their businesses. So I like to also stay up on safety standards. So I take classes through like the extension service. I do gardening classes. I do classes that involve research. I try to do that to make myself better. This next one I'm going to tell you to do, and I am the worst at this, but I'm actually next year planning on doing more of this, so maybe I'll see some of you guys. Attending herbal conferences or workshops. So I had a few kind of disheartening experiences early on in my career. I was a very young herbal teacher. I kind of got some blowback for being so young in the industry and being online. Those were not too, those weren't accepted in the late 90s, early 2000s in the herbal world. And some of the things that were said to me just kind of, they hurt my heart. And so I just have rarely done stuff since then, like if I have a really good jive with like the host or something. But I decided that I wanted to start attending, at least as a student, herbal workshops and conferences again, more regularly. Maybe teaching. I don't know if I'm going to fill out any of the applications to do that. But I was just like, I do think we need to shake it up in the herbal world, and we need to see more people teaching more things. So I'm really excited about just seeing what new people are bringing to the industry. So I definitely feel like, okay, I can get back out there again, working on not being so shy and insecure in public. A lot of people think in public that I'm kind of a bitch because I am actually, like, I'm great, like, talking and recording and doing, like, long format talking on, like, Zooms and stuff like that. But in person, I'm pretty shy, so I have to work on that and make sure that I can do that better. And then you need to build a community around your brand. So don't just sell, educate, and empower. Build a community, build connection. So here are some like little things you can think about. A batch tracking system for quality control, material safety data sheets for ingredients on file. So just even if it's just an accordion file, the printouts that you get when you order your base ingredients, just keep those on file or ask the businesses to send them to you and keep them in a folder like on your computer, backed up to a drive or, the cloud or something like that. So you always have them. Join herbal business groups or associations. So again, I am not great with that. I am great with joining them and giving them money. I'm not always great in attending them. So that's something that I'm going to be working on. So hopefully I'll get to see more of you guys out in the wild. And then you can offer some kind of sample with orders or something like that. But I'm going to tell you, samples can get super, super expensive really, really fast. So maybe investing in things like stickers or recipe cards would be a cheaper way to connect with people and still have your branding. Because, if you are, as a business, giving away lip balms or little mini balms to everybody that comes by your booth or your table or into your shop, it can get expensive quickly. And so you'll want to make sure that, you think about things in different ways. So maybe if someone, spends over $100, they get this, or otherwise they get a sticker, and to just kind of do things like that. I know my husband loves getting stickers, and he has, about 20 feet of metal cabinets in the garage that are like 7 feet tall, and he keeps like a bunch of his, gobbledygook in there. And these things are just covered with all of his stickers. He just loves them. I got that one from that one. Some of these brands that he's gotten stickers from, just the fact that they gave him a sticker, he's got a lifelong brand loyalty. It is crazy. He's like, no, I'm not buying that. I only buy this. They gave me a sticker, and I'm looking at him like, you are so easy. But people are easy. They just want that connection. They want that support. They want that, love. So anyways, I'm going to be doing a few more of these if I'll ask for questions in the group, and hopefully, we can just do this. I may look at trying to figure out a way to put the links to all of these into like one folder in the group, so then you guys can just like go back and reference them later, and maybe a lot of work to go through and find all of the videos that have been posted over like the last, 15 years on Facebook, but let's see if I can do something like that for you. So thanks a lot for listening. Have a great day, and I hope that this answered your question.